This is your weekly What to Watch on the Intercut podcast. I am Zach Shevich, joined by Arturo Zurita. Art, what's going on, man? What's the best thing to watch this week? What are we getting into?
I guess, does it depend on who you're with? Depending
Yeah.
on who you're spending the day with, that varies whether you want to see this, whether you're going to see something with somebody, whether you're going to see something at home, whether you're going to see something in the theaters,
Right, we're
whether
coming
you're going
to
to see
you
something in VR,
on
honestly, at this point.
Valentine's. So, there's
hmm
love in the air. We're with our special someones streaming together.
And our other
Also,
special
our
someone
our
partners are
spouses are in
just
the
right
room.
there waiting. Be like, give them the pics now so we can go get a combo price. But we have so much stuff, not just movies. Super Bowl just happened.
Yeah.
We have commercials, we have ads, some of the biggest stuff of the year, stuff that costs as much as some of the movies we're about to mention.
Probably
as well.
more.
Just 30 seconds, yeah. I guess maybe even more effective.
Over under. Did the ad for Doctor Strange cost more than the movie King Knight to produce?
King Knight? Yes. You talking about the Fantasia one?
Yeah.
100%. Shout out King Knight, which is coming out too.
We'll get into
Yeah,
that
probably
because
so.
we're talking about the past, the present, and the future on what to watch, breaking down the latest in theaters, on streaming, and everywhere. We're going to start it the way that we normally start our podcasts, with what we're watching, and talk about some of those Valentine's Day options, because it's the romantic day in the calendar. It's the greeting card holiday, or the day of romance and St. Valentine's, whatever it means to you. It's a chance to watch some sweet movies, a chance to get close to someone, and maybe there's something that will get you in the mood for love coming out. So I'm not so sure our first one is that movie, but it is certainly trying to be. Let's talk a little about Marry Me, starring Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. This one is out in theaters, and it is day and date with Peacock. Peacock doing its best to
Surprisingly.
make a push between the Super Bowl, the Olympics, and Marry Me. I mean, if you're not subscribed to Peacock now, I don't know if you'll ever be. Art, a lot of people are calling this one a throwback to the rom-coms of the 90s. Do you think it was successful in doing that, or not so much?
Yeah, because that's where it should have stayed. I don't see the point of the movie in terms of it being the big Valentine's Day blockbuster that they wanted it to be. Because I think you're kind of split down the middle with a couple of these other movies that we're going to discuss. Whether you're either watching something about love being the thing that you'd go to the max for because you have it or have lost it, or you just don't have it at all and you're very lonely. I think those are you have the market of people either feeding those who are in a good relationship or those who are looking for a relationship. Marry Me is the weirdest thing because I don't think it fits for either.
Yeah.
It does not feel like a love story. It feels like a movie that was just kind of used as a pedal for Jennifer Lopez to release a whole soundtrack with, which is the biggest praise I can give it. I think it's an okay movie. The first time around that I was watching it, I just wasn't feeling it. I told Zach, I was like, hey, it's at home. I can pause it. I can't leave the theater to do this, but I can pause this right now. I'm going to go watch something else. And it was in between that I realized it's actually based off of a comic, which I found intriguing because I've been looking for this comic for the longest time, not realizing this was the movie it was being made.
Oh, really?
There's a comic out there about it feels like it's a futuristic star. I'm going to try to see if I can pull it up over here. And it was originally a webcomic, meaning that, it wasn't even available for purchase. I think they were able to do a print in '08. They have a reprinting that's happened now. And I've been looking everywhere for this
Is it
comic.
not called Marry?
Because I wanted to see it. It's called Marry Me. But, dude, I couldn't connect the two. I'm over here going, this comic, I'm going to show you the picture. You will never think that this is the comic that Jennifer Lopez is going to be in. So I'm over here trying to find a copy before the movie comes out. And I'm in the midst of watching the movie that it's about. As you can see right there, little Marry Me comic that feels like it's from the future almost. It's supposed to be 200 pages long. And that actually covers a lot more of the ins and outs of what a celebrity is going through. Of course, this being a movie in where Jennifer Lopez is practically playing Jennifer Lopez, it's very obvious how much of herself she's playing here and being in all these different relationships.
Or even if it's not necessarily playing herself, it's sort of a commentary on herself, right? And
100%.
her being the star whose romantic exploits are fodder for the tabloids, and she's hounded by paparazzi, and they try to sort of show what that experience would be like also for a regular person played by Owen Wilson, who finds his life kind of upended by being thrown into the spotlight in this new relationship. And like, I think that partially plays into why, like, some people find that aspect of the movie to be really charming. It's that aspect of the movie that made it really frustrating to me. And like,
it's dumb.
I don't want to sound like ageist in saying this, because like I love them both as actors and I want them to have good parts. These are not good parts. Like, their characters are making decisions that like a drunk 20-year-old might not make, and they are both in their 50s now. Like, I'm sorry to say that out loud. I'm not sure either of them want me to say that out loud, but
hey,
like,
J-Lo don't care. J-Lo looks great in every movie that she's in. She always has that one shot where she's like, of course I'm going to be working out 30 minutes into the movie and you're going to catch it. Shout out J-Lo.
It's not about looks. It's about there being too knowledgeable
to
make these types of decisions. And like, a lot of times romantic comedies ask you to sort of suspend your disbelief, suspend your logic in ways to sort of make you feel a little more romantic or make you cringe. I just was like make some common sense decisions here. Like, you have a child, you're not looking after your child.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson. So I don't know, maybe that's also gonna be an appeal to some people. Some people like to yell back at the movies and enjoy romantic comedies for some of that stupid logic. That kept me from really embracing this one. It just went over the line of believability for me.
I think it belongs exactly on Peacock where they had it. If you did go, someone dragged you out to go see this in theaters, you probably won't be saying the title back to that person, but catch the comic if you can.
Yeah. Elsewhere, in terms of the romantic comedy department, Amazon is getting into the game with I Want You Back. This one stars Jenny Slate and Charlie Day, and interestingly comes from Jason Orley, who his last film is Big Time Adolescence, so one that we quite liked and talked about a bit on the Intercut podcast. This one,
I liked it.
This one I think has a pretty different tone. It's a little bit more schmaltzy, but like, it's very cute. It's very sweet. I think it's not quite as saccharine or treacly as a Marry Me. It's just kind of like there is a little bit of like a subversive edge to it, and it's got a little bit of raunch there in terms of like the kind of sex comedy hijinks that they get up to. I just felt like this was a much more like down to earth romantic comedy that I could buy into, and it's really elevated by the presence of its cast. I think Jenny Slate and Charlie Day are just very gifted performers. There's a review on Letterboxd from Sean Burns who talks about how they've got these squeaky voices that kind of just sort of work in this weird comedic harmony. I liked their interplay. I liked some of the throwaway lines, especially the little gag about whether or not Titanic was based on a play. No, it was based on a ship. It wasn't like the best thing out there, but I smiled through most of it. And if we're talking about like what is probably the best romantic comedy available on streaming tonight, at least from the new ones, this might be my pick.
I also really enjoyed it too. Drop the Peacock, go to Prime. This delivered in every sense that I needed it to. You're right. It's not doing anything different. You know how the movie's going to end.
Yeah.
But that's not the point, right? The point is, like, can they make the journey enjoyable? And I think the two leads definitely do. I think that it's raunchy enough that I think you could only get away with maybe something that's on streaming. There are relationships that are had in this movie and how crazy they get into trying to get each other's couples back. Something that's very similar to Netflix's earlier movie this year with our boy Jimmy Yang, who did I forget what his was called, but his was with Nina Dobrev, where they kind of like he catfished her, and they kind of had to play with it. And they had a cute little moment there on remixing a classic winter song. Here, I thought that they had jokes a minute. I thought the scenarios that they found themselves in, or the way that they were able to play off of each other, was beautiful. There's even some kid actors in this movie that have to play off of Jenny Slate, and they had some of the funniest moments between each other. I thought the movie worked beautifully, and the fact that it's on Prime is like an even better reason for people to catch it, because you can watch it at home, and if for whatever reason you're not into it, I mean, you're at home, you're in your own couch, but I think that you're really going to enjoy this one. And they all look great. Jenny Slate looked fantastic in this movie. Like, I'm a Gina fan. Jenny looked great. Eastwood Jr. looking good too.
It does fall a little bit into that romantic comedy trope of like a bunch of people who don't realize quite how hot Jenny Slate is.
That too. Well, nah, she realizes it because there's a whole point where they do the whole. They're both trying to play like, oh, we're not the leads,
Yeah.
we're the sides.
Yeah, we're kind of the fun friend.
Yeah, it's gonna take a long time for what's his name? Our other dude, our main guy.
Charlie Day?
Yeah, for Charlie Day, where it's like it's not gonna take a day for Charlie, it's gonna take a year for Charlie. Is what they say to fall in love with him. But she's working it. She's not even being coy about it. They have a whole like dress thing that they do, and she comes on. She's like, I look great. I know I do.
Yeah.
I think after all the Captain America stuff she had to deal with, I am a person who thinks that Jenny is funny. I think she's adorable.
Yeah.
And I thought she killed it in this movie. So if you're a fan of either of those two, definitely check it out. And I think that the ending delivers on that heartfelt type of ending that you want. As cliche as it is,
Yeah.
you almost kind of want it to be cliche too. Without having that cliche factor, it almost doesn't feel as mushy.
Yeah, it's not a surprise when it goes the direction it does, but I think it doesn't overplay its hand. So I was with this one for most of it.
Really quick though, sticking to the stuff that was still playing in theaters, I see you missed a little movie that came out, and I'm not talking about the one you may be thinking of that you have a little bit later. We had a really big one. Man just got a nomination.
Oh yeah,
stole a nomination from the boy Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah.
Then came and is doing a sequel and is playing the lead as the the greatest detective in the world. Talking about none other than Death on the Nile over here.
Yeah,
Are you
tell me
fan
about
of these mysteries?
Tell me about all my problematic faves. What's up with Army? What's up with Gal? What's up with Letitia?
Bro, ain't nobody. Who was the last one to do this? Who kind of had someone and said, "Oh, your boy, West Side Story." He said, "I don't care. That's my Tony." I don't see what Army had or Gal had, but clearly they filled the Nile up with more of the complaints. Because
Did you get any applause at the champagne line? Because it seemed like a lot of screenings in New York were going full camp.
I think everyone in New York is going way too crazy for that. They've been waiting for that moment a little too long. No, we had a pretty chill screening at ours. It was kind of funny though, because my screening was someone who was very invested with the characters. I really enjoy the first one. In fact, Murder on the Orient Express is our first LME on the channel. So now being able to have this Death on the Nile one that we're working on and revisiting the first one, we're invested with these characters. And I will say this, Death on the Nile is not as good as the first one, Murder on the Orient Express. But it still has, the Agatha Christie detective mystery to it, where you're like following each person. Each person has a motive for who killed who on this boat. Why did they do it? But I'd say that this one expands and is able to do a lot of bigger things that the first one wasn't. And it's definitely one that focuses on love more. I kept thinking about Bly Manor and what was the first one before Bly Manor?
Hill House?
Hill House.
Yeah.
I feel that they're very similar in where a lot of the technical stuff and the way that things broke down in Hill House, Bly Manor didn't skip that. It just decided to focus more on the love aspect. This is a love movie through and through. They will force anything. If there is a relationship you can have with your handkerchief, they will talk about that love relationship in this movie. I thought it was decent. Again, not better than the first one, but if you wanted to have a decent watch, the only problem with it is the length. So I guess if you're going to a theater and you really want to take advantage of the money, this movie's 2 hours and 12 minutes. It does give you a good ending. That's not as satisfying as the first one, but it's a movie that's always reminding you about love, be it through grief, be it through forbidden love, or be it through someone who's willing to go through the craziest thing possible in order to get the one that they care about back. But your problematics are terrible in this movie. There's no reason he should have fought for these, bro.
I don't know if it might just be a lack of budget for the reshoots, but yeah,
because they're main characters. But I mean, if Christopher Plummer can come in and CGI and Kevin Spacey out of a movie and then get an Oscar nomination, I don't see why you would fight for Army, Gal, or who's our third one over here?
Letitia, Russell Brand. Look, the list goes on.
Out of the three, Letitia was the best one.
Okay.
She injected what she needed to for the story, and I thought it was pretty good. But other than everybody else,
I mean, these movies are also movies that people go to for the mystery of it, right? You want to be kept guessing. You want to be surprised by the ending. Did it satisfy in terms of the mystery at its center?
Not as much as the first.
Yeah.
And I personally left, bro, don't laugh. I left less thinking about the mystery and how it all wrapped up. I didn't care who dies. Do you know who dies? I don't know if that's a spoiler or not.
I don't know who dies.
Okay, I won't say who dies.
Yeah.
I think you'd like it. I didn't leave caring about the murder and the mystery and all that. They give you a prequel to this man's mustache. in this movie.
Everything needs an origin story.
And that was the best part of the movie. I don't know what else to tell you. But it's all right. That's on the Nile, playing in theaters.
All right.
If you do see it, see it in Prime.
Yeah.
Or see it in Prime. See it in Dolby. My bad.
There we go. All right.
Wait till it comes out on Amazon.
Moving on from Death on the Nile, I got to finish up the Pam and Tommy series. I know you got a little bit left on it. So I just wanted to say a couple things quickly now that I've wrapped it up. I was really impressed with both Lily James and Sebastian Stan on this show. I think they lean into the kind of like salacious material in a fun way that doesn't necessarily feel like hokey. It feels like they're giving their characters depth, and like maybe there is a little bit of mocking going on, but I found it to be I found there to be enough emotion and layers to their performances that I thought the performances themselves were really good. It's ultimately where the show goes that I felt a little bit left down by. It kind of was unfocused. It was a little bit all over the place tonally, and by the end, like I couldn't tell whether it wanted us to kind of look at them as these kind of like strange eccentrics who kind of sowed their own future, or to kind of use them as martyrs for the coming era of no privacy. And that lack of focus sort of made me feel like the show was a little bit empty by the end. So like I still think I would recommend it because it's extremely easy to watch. It's a lot of fun. Like we were having a lot of fun watching it, I feel like, but it's not something that's sticking with me. It's a little bit, fast food, I think.
You mean the guy who did Cruella's origin story and retold it as the dogs killing her mother doesn't have the chutzpah to bring it in a cohesive way?
Maybe not all the way there, but it's fun. I still enjoy the performances on it a lot, so I would definitely recommend you finish Pam and Tommy.
Will do. There's
another one that I wasn't able to catch, but I know that you've got some thoughts on the latest epic from Netflix, the movie
New
that's
Heights,
on the
baby.
tongues of every preteen.
Reaching the mountains.
Tall Girl 2. Is this the best Netflix has to offer in terms of Valentine's Day stuff?
It's kind of sad to a degree, a little bit, but no, I'll say no, because I think you have some other stuff that's coming out. It's not a movie, it's a show. But of course, Netflix would rather you be there for 10 hours than, what is this, the 90 minutes I'll never get back for this movie. Tall Girl 2. I had never seen Tall Girl 1, believe it or not. I had a lot of people would always message me saying that I had a video. They're like, did you delete your video? I was like, no, I swear to you, I've never made one.
It's the kind of masochism that you frequent in. I frequent,
exactly. And for whatever reason, I felt not to with this one. But now I have. Zach, did you know these have TV ratings?
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes Netflix does this thing where they are like, oh no, we're gonna make this TV instead of a movie, even though it's a movie.
Even though the other movies like this do get PG-13, they're both on Netflix. I don't understand what makes the difference, other than clearly they have no faith in it. Tall Girl, I think the first one, the movie about a poor, distraught young woman who is so tall that the world's problems are just literally beneath her, actually, when you look at it, because she's going through the worst things possible because she has a men's size 13. There is a bit, I won't spoil it for those who do want to experience the love romance that happens in that movie involving a crate, but the sequel decides to, take it into taller heights, taller problems. Too tall, taller problems, I guess.
They're raising the stakes.
They actually call out the idea of the first one, that a lot of people are belittling this movie because she has no problems because she's just tall and she doesn't realize the stuff that's going on in the world. I find it hilarious because while the first one came out in 2019 and people were like, are you serious? It became like a meme on TikTok, I remember, where she would say, I'm a size 13. What problems do you think you have? And then like a quadriplegic would be on the TikTok on the other end talking about something about not their medication. It was a whole trend that they did to belittle this girl's problems. So the second one decides to ask her in an interview, after the speech that you gave in Tall Girl 1, don't you think that people have other problems? And I feel like I just blanked out on what her response was because it was that stupid. But the whole movie is just a rebuttal to, yeah, well, you thought first one was bad? Take the sequel then. Nothing happens in the movie. It is even worse than you think it is because out of the other movies we were mentioning that did not get the TV rating, To All the Boys 2 got robbed here. It's the same story. They damn near started casting identical looking actors for this movie. Point A to point B all ends up happening the same. You start forgetting if you're following the Kissing Booth, Sierra Burgess, or To All the Boys. All of these are written in the same type of fashion through Netflix. They all look the same at the way that they're shot. Mm-hmm. They all have the same schedules, and they're all dipping into each other's plot lines. You will not remember this movie. We can forget it already.
Well, this one, I believe you just told me, is trending number 2 on Netflix.
I hope not. Please don't say that. On God, don't say that. But
I thought you
it's
said
hate
that.
Watching.
You think so? Because looking over at the Letterboxd ratings, I mean, it might be mostly hate watching.
It is hate watching, and they know that from the first one because, like I say, they wrote the script to this one to literally be it's at number 5. It's not that tall of a
okay.
It's number 5.
That's trending.
It's
Some
still
people are
trending. I know. Look, people watch it to hate watch, and I think they know that. And they even add some new characters in this movie to specifically bug people. It's almost like you got was it John Raphael and Mona Lisa, and it was just like them and their own movies. So that's what this series is. I was late to it, and I wish I was even later to it.
Did they add a taller girl? Or is she still the tallest girl?
No, she's the tallest girl. I think the only thing taller than the girl would be that 1-star rating on Letterboxd.
All right, maybe not quite.
You would think, right? They should bring a taller girl, and they don't.
Yeah, the tallest girl, as everything is weird, writes in the live stream.
Unbelievable.
Maybe not so much of a romance, maybe an anti-romance, but also trending on Netflix is the Tinder Swindler, which I keep almost calling the Tindler Swindler or Tilda Swinton. You caught the latest trendy documentary. Is it fair to call this a true crime documentary?
Yeah, because it's a true crime that these ladies fell for this buffoonery. Yeah. You feel really bad for them.
Yeah.
This is the documentary that's looking back at this like really national case of this dude who would take money from one girl to pay for his next girl, and then that girl he would get money from to pay for his next girl. It is the perfect scheme that he had going on, and you get to see a lot of these women come out and talk about how they were being duped, how they were waiting till the last minute to get this money. And I will say that it kind of does a really good double feature between this and what is actually trending on number 1 on Netflix right now, which is another series about someone who swindled a lot of money. That would be the female version. This is the male version that also happens to be true. So you feel really bad for these women that you're watching. You're following the scam and you're seeing the ins and outs of it. That is pretty you do have to have a lapse of judgment, obviously, to give this man the amount of money that they were giving him, which is ridiculous. But you see how infatuated they were with each other, that it's kind of hard to not judge the women who are like talking about what happened, because at a certain point you're like, well, there's no way to technically give you that money back because it wasn't a business proposition. You gave it out of love.
Right.
And it kind of shows you how dumb people can be when they're so desperate to search for that love. So it is a Valentine's Day movie to some degree, especially when a lot of people aren't going to be meeting each other at bars or shops, but through an app, then definitely.
Is this kind of
you should have on your radar.
Like the new Catfish or something like that?
We have so many of these, like by next week there'll probably be another one, but it is up there in that vein because, again, I don't think you look at them and as foolish as you think they are, you don't leave the documentary calling them dumb. You do feel bad for them because you see how they were manipulated, and I think that's why it's an important look at it from that perspective and how easily people can be swindled, but you just feel so bad for them. You don't understand how people could fall for something like this and make it a scheme. It is also funny when some of them come out and try to play the hero. I was like, oh yeah, I knew to stop this. I was like, you still kind of fell for it too. Don't act like you're smarter than the rest of them. But if you do catch it, there is some crazy anecdotes that they tell in the story on the way that they were able to travel around. So there is that watchability factor to it.
Awesome. Sticking with Netflix stuff, I don't know if this is going to be like a fun Valentine's Day binge, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching it because it is the latest Shondaland show. It is Inventing Anna. This one is about the famed socialite Anna Delvey and her also swindling of various people. You got
everybody. Julia
Garner of Ozark in the lead role. Art, I know you've caught a little bit of this one. What do you think about Inventing Anna so far?
This is based off of a true story. It's practically Catch Me If You Can, but you got Julia Garner coming off of Ozark. I know she's also got season 4. She's got 2 trending things on Netflix, which is really good for her. Shout out to her. Just came off the Emmy for the win off of Ozark season 3. So it's really cool to see her be able to handle a show where she's playing this character who swindled so many people for about a decade or so. And even when she gets caught, because that's the premise of the show, she gets caught and she goes, nah, I'm not going to plead guilty or anything. I don't get her accent. That is one of the biggest things that's taking away from this movie, from this series. Another factor of it is that you could feel the budget. I think that it is so stretched out. It's not even 10 episodes. It's 9 episodes that are an hour to an hour 15 each. I think that there's a lot of pacing problems with the show. I think that there is a lot of performance issues that could also just be directing. It almost feels like they're rushing it because they're covering so much. It's 10 hours.
How's her accent? Because it looks all over the place in the trailer.
I cannot stand her accent.
Yeah.
I think everything she's bringing to the table is dope. I literally sometimes think I'm watching Tommy Wiseau in an ad or something. It is so bad the way that her accent carries her in different places. I don't see how anybody fell for that one right there. But this is a woman who wasn't just taking advantage of like corporations and people, you know, like, hey, I got their acceptance, so can you give me something over here? They're like, well, I guess if they approved you, then we'll give you this. Then she goes to them and they go, they approved me, can you give me this? You know, so she's doing this whole catch me if you can thing with a lot of people. But it's also the people who she dupes who actually like her. Like, they refuse to believe, even with the lie right in front of them, that she is doing anything wrong, because to them, she wasn't faking the type of person that she was. Like, she knew fashion.
Yeah.
She knew a lot of things. And to them, there's like, well, you can't hide that. So even if she faked it till she made it, she wasn't lying about having that chutzpah.
Right. And clever enough to make her way.
So it's a show where you're kind of split in between, like, it's no longer about, is she guilty, is she not? Do people even care if she is? Because the big thing that they push in episode 1 is that all Anna cares about is attention. And now she's #1 on Netflix. So I'm very interested to see what you thought you were doing with your show if you're just giving her more attention. Fire Festival guy appears.
Oh, really?
That's a whole subplot. That really threw me for a loop. I was like, oh, we're not just following Anna. We follow Anna, and she dips into some of the craziest scandals of the last year. I'm just waiting for her to come across the Theranos lady. There's just going to be this whole universe. They all just know each other.
The multiverse of tricksters.
Multiverse of swindlers.
Swindlers. The Swindlerverse.
But it's decent. I do think you feel the budget and the accent. It kind of grates at you a little bit. Like, it feels pretty cheap as compared to a lot of other Netflix shows too. I don't understand why. I think they were just rushing it, or maybe COVID protocols, but I still think it's interesting as long as the episodes are. I never doubt Shonda. Like, I don't think Bridgerton even has it as big as this one does. Like, this one says Shondaland. Inventing Anna.
She saw Bridgerton and was like, make it bigger.
But as long as it is, it's very fascinating to see. I guess what feels, as much as it is 10 hours, it is kind of like a recap of this crazy story that so many people fell for. And I'm looking forward to finishing up the second half of it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious your thoughts. I might check it out, although I've been hearing not so great things about it.
Another one of the New York Magazine ones that we've been talking about, where all the credit goes to New York Magazine for writing the story.
Yeah, well, they did the investigative work that I guess they're basing it off of. I don't know if you also
the other half of the story is her. It's the journalist trying to find her. Yeah, so they do
played by
that
Anna
kind
Klumsky,
of
right?
So they kind of do the was it Every Day in the Neighborhood or Good Time in the Neighborhood? Right. With where you're following the journalist alongside the subject.
Yeah. What was I going to say with this one? I don't know. I'm curious about it. I'm not so sure. I'm curious whether or not it's going to be like a Bridgerton level hit for her, because they are paying Shonda so much money for this Netflix deal that Netflix is going to want this show to be big, and Julia Garner's already a big staple. This is a buzzy story. I don't know if you saw the bit of news that came out that Netflix reportedly paid her for her life rights. So the actual woman, Anna Sorokin, I think is her name, is going to be getting some money off of the series too.
That's bad, bro. That's bad.
Yeah, don't love that.
That's not good. Yeah. Something else that we had seen also had that where they were paying the subject, and I was like, you are literally breaching that. Speaking of the Fire Festival guy, when they had the Hulu and the Netflix docs, Netflix couldn't secure the Fire Festival guy because Hulu
Right.
had already paid him, I think it was $250,000. You should not be paying the guy who's the subject of the documentary for screwing over a lot of people $250,000.
Right.
That's not even journalistically correct.
Yeah.
And wow, that's really messed up that you say that because a big part of the journalist subplot is that they get called out for not having integrity, and thus no one wants to believe her anymore. And now you're telling me that the show paid the woman who swindled.
Interesting anachronisms, I guess. All right, moving on. I did get to catch the Beatles Get Back Rooftop
tell me, 'cause it's done
concert
now.
in IMAX.
How was it?
I mean, look, I was really excited about it because this is like, I don't know, I guess I'm a boomer now. The Super Bowl made me feel really old, so I might as well just embrace being old and being into music that young people don't care about. But it was wonderful, man. It was really great to see the footage. It was really great to hear that music with those IMAX speakers, those theater speakers pumping. It was just a fun experience, and like, you know, I think a lot of the joy in watching a music documentary is just like getting to hear these songs you love on bigger speakers than you'll ever own. You know, it's
how are the visuals?
It's probably the closest I'll ever get to seeing the Beatles in concert, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing, though, with the visuals, it is still pretty much the exact same thing that we saw in the documentary on Disney Plus. Unfortunately,
is the framing different? Do you take, because you got to see this in New York at the Lincoln Center, or Lincoln Square?
It expands really well. I don't know if there's a whole lot of like reframing going on. There's definitely a couple shots that I noticed that were changed, but like my experience of watching it, aside from the, you know, technical aspects of it, like just watching the footage, felt similarly, I guess, to watching it at home. I was hoping that there would be a little more expanded, a little bit more behind the scenes. Like there's a whole coda, if you remember watching the Disney Plus rather version, a whole coda of them recording the rest of the album that is very abbreviated. I was sitting there like, Peter, just give it all. Like, let me hear the whole recording, maybe. That said, like, you know, it was a wonderful time. I wasn't really going there expecting a whole new thing. I knew it was going to be pretty much the same, and yeah, it was pretty much the same. So I think it's kind of like a super fan only type of experience. But
gotcha,
man, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a good night out at the movies.
Because it's only an hour, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit over an hour. So
okay. Trailers were longer?
Yeah, basically. I mean, they didn't have that many trailers, so my friend was upset. He got there about like 10 minutes in.
That's funny. I hate when they do that, but so Peter Jackson also directed this one, so
yeah.
Damn. I like that. I like seeing how like wide releases he's been able to do with this, and They Shall Not Grow Old.
Mm-hmm.
So, sucks that I missed it, but hopefully they're able to release it up on Disney Plus.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they do any IMAX things, I mean, they have that going already on that service, so.
A couple others that I know you didn't get a chance to get around to. Probably my favorite of the ones that you didn't get a chance to get around to is Kimi. It's the return of the man, Steven Soderbergh, our boy, the man who knows no COVID restriction he can't find a way around. He's since COVID happened, this dude's put out 3 movies. Like, what would stop him? I don't understand. I mean, he directed Contagion. He's probably well ahead of everybody in that department. But still, they
told him he doesn't have to worry about theaters anymore, and that they had this thing called streaming services. And he said, "Let me check that out then."
Yeah, I think I got an idea or two.
Let me go get my lens and my iPhone, and let me go film a quick hour 40 flick.
Yeah.
You liked it? Is this good? The poster looks fantastic. The trailer looks incredible, and it's Steven. He's got this whole thing going on with HBO Max. I loved what he had last time. I thought he did pretty good. This is supposed to be like a futuristic movie?
No, it's not really. I mean, it's kind of contemporary, although, you know, it's got... So Kimi is the name of the smart home type device, the Alexa or the Google Home or whatever you want to call it. I hope my Alexa doesn't wake up right now. There's a funny running bit of the smart home waking up when they're accidentally talking about it. But, you know, I think that might set you up for thinking it's this kind of like technology thriller, and it's not quite so. much centered on the technology so much as it is like how people interact with technology, which is something that I liked, right?
That's more interesting.
What we end up here is with Steven Soderbergh's version of Blowout, which is really exciting if you're a De Palma fan, because I feel like it's almost, it feels like fate for a guy who loves film as much as Soderbergh to make a movie like Blowout. In that we're following the Kimi character as she's going through recordings that are taken from smart home devices, and then she hears something and investigates it. And just the way that it kind of like pulls you in, kind of like Blowout does, and does it with a lot of dialogue free scenes. You're just seeing her process in like pulling apart the audio file and raising this level and lowering that level, and then doing the investigative work. And I think it's just a really tense, tightly scripted thriller that does exactly what it sets out to do. You know, it makes you uncomfortable, makes you unsettled, it raises the stakes and then kind of eases them off, and then it raises them again, and then it flips the script on you. And I don't know, I found it to be in a moment to moment basis so satisfying. Like, the story might be a little bit like the thing that you get from every thriller. There's, you know, there's somebody in trouble and somebody's trying to investigate and solve it. But I think it's in the handling of it is through Soderbergh's vision is so efficiently done and so clever in spots that I had such a good time with this movie. It totally rips. Cool. I think it's my favorite movie that I've seen in the last week at least. And I think it just does a lot of stuff that I really loved. You know, there's all these interesting COVID aspects to the movie. It's kind of, it feels set like sort of in the early pandemic, and you know, she's sort of, the Kimi character feels kind of trapped in her apartment because she's worried about going out into the world. And I think
also it's brought up in the story.
It's brought up, but it's not the story itself. It's kind of just the text for the story, which is
how it should be. We need to get all these COVID right. Like, there needs to be bank heist movies that just so happen to be set in COVID. Not a COVID movie that dictates the entire plot of the movie. That's interesting. Only Soderbergh would do that. He'd be like, all right, yeah, this is the time this would have been taking place. So how do I apply my story that I was going to have? All right.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I was very much into this movie. I hope you get around to it soon.
One question for you.
Shoot.
How is Zoe Kravitz? Because I hear a lot of things. I enjoy Zoe Kravitz, but I know the word has gone around that for Batman, which is going to be probably the biggest role she's had to date, that she practiced learning. She like observed cats.
Yeah.
To learn how to be Catwoman, and well, a lot of people preferred her to learn acting, to act. How was she in the movie?
I thought she was fantastic in this movie. It's a little bit of a silly performance, but I think intentionally so. She kind of plays this socially awkward person. She has this very interesting run that she does in the movie, but it's the kind of full-bodied acting that I really admire and I really appreciate when an actor wants to make those decisions, right? She could have played it straight. She could have played it like she's just kind of like a regular person, but there's these quirks that reveal sort of these uncomfortable things that her character is dealing with. Her character's anxiety, I think, manifests through her physicality, which I thought was really smartly done.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking forward to this one. This was one of my most anticipated releases, which is why I started watching everything else to save the best for last. So I'm glad I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, what was not the best for last is the new Josephine Decker film. We have a new Josephine Decker film. I feel like
which is crazy.
Apple tried to bury this one.
Zach has told me this 3 times already, and every single time I go, which one is it? So, like, that's how low it is. Yeah. But the sky is everywhere.
I mean, the sky is everywhere. So this one is based on a young adult novel. It is kind of a young adult story, a story of grieving and love and whimsy and all sorts of things. And if it feels like I'm struggling to wrap my hands around this as a movie, it's because it is kind of hard to pin down. It is all these different things. It's very, very twee and very silly, but also very self-serious and mournful and about loss. And it's also romantic, but it's also like not romantic intentionally. I don't know. It's this kind of messy movie about a person who's kind of going through a messy period in her life. So I guess it makes sense, but it just didn't feel like the movie ever sort of coalesced around one idea. There's just all these bits that stood out as not working for me. I did by the halfway point, I was starting to appreciate its visual flair and all the ways that Josephine Decker is trying to sort of elevate what would otherwise maybe be a kind of typical young adult story. But there just wasn't enough here that I feel like is worth recommending, that I would give it like the thumbs up. You know, it's interesting. Some of the performances are good. I'm always happy to see the boy Jason Segel show up and stuff, but I don't know, man. It's a mixed bag.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Sky's everywhere, but the movie's only on Apple. Which, do we have any good Apple movies besides Boy State, which is doc? I'm talking like narratives. Have we?
Coda nominated for Best Picture recently.
So no.
I like The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Okay. No, you're right. Yeah, I take back what I said. Yeah, it's about time.
No, I mean they've definitely been more successful in terms of releasing releasing series. Although they have that Velvet Underground documentary as well, so they've got some decent stuff. They're slowly but surely building that catalog up.
All right.
You want to do some quick thoughts on the latest Liam Neeson actioner, Blacklight? This one seems like pretty forgettable even amongst his selection of action movies.
Liam Neeson's got a new movie called Blacklight, only in theaters. Don't watch it.
That's it.
I mean, I'll be making an LME on it, but
okay.
I don't get how this man has he has not lost a spot. Like Cold Pursuit would have been 2019 when we were at Sundance. He still had one in 2020. In 2021, like he had The Marksman. He has had a movie every single year. He will not leave the spot. And at a certain point, he is playing a special agent who helps special agents out of special agency problems that they're in. Like that's literally his role. And it's yet again another one of those movies where he's like, am I too old for this? And then the other guy goes, you're not too old. And you're like, what are we talking about here?
You might be a little bit too old.
What are we discussing here? And he is way too old. Do you remember the infamous Taken scene?
The jumping over fences?
The fact that there's 3 and you know exactly which scene I'm talking about. Yes, that one, Zach. There's a scene that happens next to a fence. Did you think this man was going to hop the fence? No, he did not. So they had
not
to
in
have
one
the
take.
fight.
He isn't.
They had to have the fight on the other side of the fence. I was like, I want to see Liam jump this. Did he? No, he did not. Instead, it looked like they were having a ballerina rehearsal. They cut before any single contact was made, and he was swinging around Liam. It looked like you were watching this in slow motion, sped up. Hilarious. Then the guy jumps over the thing, and you realize, Liam's not jumping that. Liam needs to retire. He should have left early. But as this movie tries to indicate through his character that Liam is like that special agent. And sometimes we are the special agents who need the special agent to come in and be reminded on what a real movie is. Because all the problems that we're going through in the world are nothing when you sit down and for 90 minutes Liam Neeson takes you for a ride. But I just wanted to be left alone from this. He's also very political in this one.
Really? I hope it's not more of the like trying to hunt people down. Stuff
it is. There's practically like an AOC character at the beginning who gets murdered, and you don't know anything until later. Yeah, they try to get into politics and CIA and whatever else, and I was just like, you all are saying a lot and somehow not saying a damn thing. So that's the movie. Where Liam Neeson goes, the U.S. government doing bad things? Should have stopped that Taken 2.
Devesh in the live stream says, I've heard there's 7 cuts of him adjusting a mirror.
I'm telling you, when you watch the scene of him fighting, he spins them around like they're doing bachata, like they're doing some salsa dance. It was ridiculous. I can't even say that because it's
like Steven Seagal territory.
Dude, and to tell me why I was just reading about Steven Seagal before this podcast, about how he got choked out. No, I don't think anyone will ever be as bad as Steven Seagal because at least Liam's still in theaters.
Yeah. It's weird, though. I mean, like, it's not like he's a bad actor, right? Like, my man's Oscar nominated, I think, right? Like, why...
He's got
Take
the
a
voice.
rest.
He's got so much
Sit
going
down.
with him.
Play a dad who's dying or something.
It doesn't have to be an action movie too, because now those cracks are starting to show. Go be in your dramatic bag, man.
Yeah. All right, so those are the things we've been watching. A pretty busy week. A lot of stuff out there.
Yep.
But let's get into the new to see and look ahead to what is coming out over the next couple of days. We've got a few things for VOD. On February 14th is Along Came Wanda. Then on the 15th, Flee the Light, Gridlocked, Help, Somewhere with No Bridges. Over on February 16th, Taste is showing up on Mubi. And then February 17th, we get things started with King Knight. Made a little bit of a reference to it earlier. It was one that Art caught back at Fantasia last year. Are you giving the approval to King Knight, or is it kind of a mixed bag?
Oh no, this one gets the thumbs up. I thought it was a cute little story. If they have it at a really good like rental price and you're interested in it, definitely watch it. When it's on streaming, is definitely when I'm gonna put it on people's radar. But right now that it's having its initial release, it was one of my favorites out of Fantasia. I found it to be really heartwarming. The story of this guy who left high school and now that he's older, he just so happens to be a regular suburban dude in a relationship who meets with his friends. They just run a cult, you know. He just so happens to be
It's
like
an average cult.
Yeah, they're like
friendly neighborhood cult.
Yeah, I don't want to get too like deep into it because I know there's like intricacies to Wiccans and different stuff. But yeah, he's the one who runs everything there. But he's also like going through so much like peer pressure and problems, and that's what makes the story so funny. I thought all the performances around were hilarious. You even have some side character performances from Andy Milonakis, who has a really hilarious line in the movie. But it pretty much is like a differently skinned movie of a coming of age tale of a dude who thought that he had gone through all of his stuff in high school, and now he's a leader. But what happens when you can no longer lead your group because they find out about your past? And that was a cute little story. It was funny, and there's a whole discussion on does Juliette Binoche poop?
What's your take? Does she poop?
We'll find out in King Knight 2, because I know they want to get her.
So that's February 17th on digital and VOD, King Knight. Also, Piece of My Heart shows up on Topic that day.
But the 18th.
The 18th is where things are pretty stacked. Starting out with the latest from IFC Midnight, it is a Banquet. Curious about that one.
IFC did a lot of pickups.
Yeah, IFC's been picking up a lot of stuff out of Sundance, and they basically got half of the fest so far.
And a lot of the great horror ones, so
yeah. Curious
to see what they have with the Banquet.
Also coming out
I don't get
18th
this.
is the Cuphead Show based on the popular video game. I'm just as confused as you are about this one because like I don't know if you got to catch any of these. Netflix sent over the first season to both of us.
I didn't get it.
You didn't get it? I gotta talk to Netflix about that because I got it.
Call them up, bro.
I mean, look, it's cute and it's interesting, but it's also like a throwback to a style of animation and a style of humor that I feel like children are going to be completely unfamiliar with. And this is like definitely a kid's show. Like it's not like one of those shows that looks like a kid's show, but it's actually for adults. This is a show for kids. I mean, are kids playing Cuphead? Because like I find
it's
Cuphead
too
really difficult.
For them.
So that's what, yeah. Isn't that its whole reputation? It's really hard.
What's next? The PBS Devil May Cry series? Like, what are we doing here? Like, at what point? Yeah. Demon Souls over on Disney Plus? That's what confused me the most because from what I knew about Cuphead, it didn't seem like something that would need a show, much less, as you're saying,
one like, for kids.
Kids show.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by it. I did kind of like the animation style.
It's cool.
But, yeah, I mean, it's okay. Like, it's not necessarily something that I would highly recommend. But I don't know, man. Like, maybe if your kid plays Cuphead, but like I said, like it's hard.
Why would your kid play Cuphead?
Yeah. Also in theaters on February 18th is Dog, the new film co-directed by Channing Tatum. This is his directorial debut.
I knew he was in it. I know he directed it.
Well, this is the man's passion project.
Bro, so here's the thing with Passion Project. What do you mean? Hold on, tell me that in a little bit. For me, I'm actually looking forward to this movie because every February, since Alina and I have met, I think we've seen a damn Channing Tatum movie every single time, going back to the vow. So I'm here for the Dog, or sorry, just Dog. I know who did he co-direct this with?
He co-directed this with Reed Carolyn, who I believe is the writer of the Mad Max movies.
All right.
Yeah.
I know this was his passion project. Okay.
I guess so, or something like that. I'm low key curious about it. I mean, dogs are cute. It looks like a cute dog movie. I had a German Shepherd growing up. I'm gonna be like, oh, that looks like Jewel. Also out on the 18th, Inspector Ike is in theaters. But The King's Man hits
On
Hulu,
Hulu.
finally.
Before it's even out on VOD. Dude, these releases throughout the years that we've been doing this show has been so intriguing to see that something as big as The Kingsman doesn't get a Blu-ray, doesn't even get a digital. This thing's going straight to Hulu. Crazy to think.
Yeah. Are you
Also,
a fan generally of the Kingsman series? Because I've been out on these since the first one.
yeah, so they've never blown me away. I remember all the attention that was coming for the first one, and I thought it was decent. The second one was not as good as the first one. I just missed this one in theaters. Never had the chance to go see it, knowing that it was a prequel and getting mixed reviews. So I was going to wait for it to come out. I have the collection, so I'll be making a whole timeline recap on the entire thing, but we'll see how it goes. But again, Fox defunct. Disney bought it, and now they're just, I don't know, kind of feels like Hulu originals, man.
Yeah.
West Side Story, by the way, comes out next month on Disney Plus.
I know they just announced it. I'm very excited to be able to watch that from the comfort of my home.
So Disney and Hulu, they're going to be stacked with it. So
yeah. Moving past The Kingsman, The Long Walk is going to hit theaters. The Pact also hitting theaters. A Peloton of One hitting theaters and virtual. I kept getting emails for A Peloton of One and kind of chuckling because I thought like, oh, it's a silly title, and then I looked into it. It's like,
I read the description. It's pretty good.
It sounds pretty interesting. I felt bad for making fun of it in my head. It's a documentary about like sexual assault and this company. I don't know. It seems interesting. Maybe check that one out. There's also Pursuit, starring Emile Hirsch and John Cusack. Always weird when these movies that have recognizable faces in them just kind of like limp their way into VOD. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen John Cusack in a movie that I've liked, but I really like him as an actor.
He was in that one Barstool movie where he got yelled outside of White Sox Stadium. You remember this bit?
I was like,
they caught him at a White Sox game.
My head went to, does Barstool make movies now?
For one split second, you were scared that come next year, this notion's going to have Barstool originals.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that streaming service, I'll tell you that.
But no, I feel with you. Yeah, Cusack's literally the only thing he's done was get in an argument with a dude from Barstool Sports, and that's been the biggest clip video that he's had out there. So, and I still think that'll be bigger than Pursuit because ain't no one pursuing that. Explain this one to me though. Why is there a season 2?
There's a season 2, I believe, because they're probably contractually obligated to it. I mean, we watched season 1 of Space Force, and that is an expensive looking show. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a comedy series that looked like it had a bigger budget than this one. They had campuses and sets and actors and moon bases and all sorts of crazy stuff.
They were ready to go for like another 4 or 5 years of content, and something happened.
And then I don't think a lot of people watched the show, and I don't think a lot of people liked the show. And I think they recognize that too, because in season 2, the first episode is like, we gotta cut your budget in half. When they do the entire thing set in like 2 rooms. I think I've only seen the first 2 episodes of season 2 of Space Force so far, and it's only going to be 7 episodes long, so they're even truncating that. But I think season 2 of Space Force is going to be a little bit of a different animal than the first one. I think it's going to be a lot more of the actors that are the leads in the show sitting in rooms talking to one another, and that's okay by me because I think they have a very charming cast, but it looks like they are scaling back this budget for season 2, so
dumb,
we'll report back, I guess. But
Netflix is funny with those, like when they let what's his name do the show, Damien Chazelle. He did that one show for Netflix, and he's like, I want to shoot it on film, and after 2 episodes they were like, yeah, so no.
Damien gets to shoot on a film, the rest of y'all shoot digitally.
So Damien just stopped directing, and they just put in the digital cameras. What was that one called?
The Eddie.
The Eddie, damn.
Yeah.
When's the Eddie season 2 coming out? That was one we should get.
I don't know if we're getting that one ever. Moving on to more indie releases. Talk about this 2021 Sundance selection hitting theaters. It is Strawberry Mansion, co-directed by Ken Tucker-Adley and Albert Birney. Yeah, it's been a minute, but I think you enjoyed this one back at Sundance 2021.
Yeah, sometimes you look back and like the festival premiere to its actual public premiere, and you're like, damn, it's been so long. I feel like I've been talking about this movie for so long. But it was able to play at South by. It was able to play at several different festivals as well, which is why I always kept bringing it up and giving it some notes. It is the biggest DIY movie you can think of. It's quirky, it's weird, but it has such an intriguing premise that's almost even better than what you will end up experiencing, of this man who works for these dream audits, meaning that you literally live in a world where your dreams need to be kind of like taxed. And if you're showing intellectual properties in your dreams, all this stuff needs to be changed. It sounds so fascinating. It is the reason I had bought my tickets when it premiered at Sundance. It ain't really about that, though. It's like a love story of this dude who goes into this woman's mind who owes a bunch of bag taxes in her dreams. And she ends up falling in love with a younger version of her. And within there, you get into some weird stuff that aren't really the intricacies that you want to see in this world that seems, really interesting on how all this stuff works. And instead deals with chicken goop. There's like a drive-through restaurant that sells like chicken milkshakes and two sailor rats who control things. It is a really weird movie. So look, it's not going to be for everyone. I'm going to say that again. It's not going to be for everyone. But there's some charm to that DIY style of it that feels like that you can like see the part in an act where they took out another credit card to be able to get the clothing or whatever they needed. And I just think there's so much heart in it. So if this one intrigues you in any way, shape, or form, give it a catch. I would recommend it in the comfort of your own home, because there's even a thing that the director said where if you fall asleep watching this movie, which you might do, you almost get this ethereal feeling when you wake up of like, did I go to bed watching something that I didn't know what it was or what?
It's like you're halfway into the dream before you start your own dreams.
It's a compliment. Yeah.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the production design of the movie, even though I think like ultimately it turned me off because it is a little bit slow and it isn't like there's a whole lot of story there. It's more just this atmosphere.
You Were Promised takes a detour.
Yeah. And what else is coming out? What else is on my list? We have
the biggest one, bro.
Ted K hitting theaters in VOD. That one stars Charlotte Copley. Then also on Netflix, we have the latest iteration of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Are we doing a bracket?
I don't think we're doing. I've never seen a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, man. That's a lot of homework for me.
Man, I got all my Texas Chainsaw. We just started watching one. I got my copy of the 2002 Jessica Biel Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I got a whole list that we were going to be binging this week. I'm looking forward to this one because it comes from the boys who did Don't Breathe. It comes from Fede Alvarez, who did the Evil Dead remake, Don't Breathe 1 and 2. I really like his horror approach. And I really, really freaking love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I would binge this with my sister growing up, and she would be so scared. But it has some of the craziest sound design, in my opinion. The backstory to it, if you don't know, of this man who lives in Texas and is waiting out in these fields for kids to come by, and then ends up wearing their faces, and thus he's known as Leatherface, is, to me, one of the creepiest slashers that's out there. And the score is great. And you can't beat a damn chainsaw coming to attack you. It's scarier than a machete. It's scarier than butter knives' hands. And I'm excited for this one. I hope Netflix knocks it out of the park because. Why? What you said, bro? Be excited for this,
bro.
It's a Netflix movie. They don't have to worry about any rating issues that would go in theaters. This is going to be the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre that's going directly to a streaming service with such big of a budget.
Yeah, but it wasn't produced by Netflix. It's just distributed by Netflix because they.
It was produced by Fede.
Yeah.
I'm banking on Fede. But then I did see the trailer and I saw them trying to cancel Leatherface by taking pictures of him, and that's when I'm not gonna lie, I got a little thing where I was like, oh no, please don't. But I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is some of the creepiest movies that we have out there, and I really hope they do it justice.
The buzz on this one is not great, I will say. They did test screenings that went poorly, and then they sold it off to what company was it?
Hopefully it pops up. I'm not seeing anything on the chat just yet, but I do see that we are glitched.
Yeah, I hope we're back. Maybe we're not, but thanks for everybody for sticking with us through some technical difficulties. I will buy a new wire for my microphone tonight.
Did someone chainsaw it off? Right when you weren't looking?
Leatherface came in here and messed up.
Right when you were belittling. No, I feel you though, because you're talking about that same concept that they did with the Paradox one, where, they had the biggest marketing for it, which was this idea of announcing it in the Super Bowl, everyone go sees it, and then you realize that the backstory is it was Dookie, and they had sold it off because Paramount didn't want it.
Right.
Could that be the case here? Yes. But I am saying, Zach, that it is because Fede Alvarez has pushed it to a degree that's so far they needed to give it to Netflix.
All right, so we'll see on whether or not Texas Chainsaw Massacre lives up to your hype, because you seemed very hyped on this one.
I am excited. Yeah. I'm sorry, I am. What I am not, though.
Yeah, another movie that has gone through a huge hype cycle, has gone through a lot of production delays and developments and recasts and new leads. Finally, we are getting the Uncharted movie, the Nathan Drake story, another video game adaptation for the beloved Sony franchise. This one has taken a long time to find its way to the screen. For some reason, they ended up going with Tom Holland, which is not the guy that I ever thought would fill the shoes of Nathan Drake. I mean, I get Nathan Fillion's probably a bit too old for it now, but Tom Holland doesn't look old enough for it, even if he might be.
And then they're making fun of it in the trailer, too, playing off of that, and Mark Wahlberg. It's like, he doesn't look that young or too old, and Mark Wahlberg, no offense, doesn't look that old or too young either. It's the weirdest thing. But the casting is definitely set for longevity. They definitely want to go through with this one, but considering no one's buying tickets.
It's definitely the kind of move that you make hoping that you're going to get five movies out of this guy. And I don't know why Tom Holland keeps signing up for franchises if he seems so frustrated with them, right? But nevertheless, we're getting this movie. I don't know if there's a lot of people excited for it, but it is happening. I will see it, I think, Thursday night. Are you going out? You got your A-list?
I'm going Thursday. Yeah, I got my Adobe, dude. And I was looking at it because, as I explained to you, Zach just got his A-list. So we were running through it, talking about how you can get 3 a week, but if you get your 3 in the future, it's all booked. Well, I had my 3 for the future, dude. The Batman tickets are up on sale for March 1st early if anybody wants them. March 2nd, AMC Investor Connect. You ain't got to be an AMC investor. You can get that screening. And the Thursday ones were showing. So I had already a slot for the Batman. I had my slot for Uncharted. I had my slot for this. So when I was going to go see Death on the Nile, I'm like, I need to cancel something. What could I possibly cancel? The Uncharted screening was so empty, bro.
Really?
I was about to delete that ticket and not get it till the day of. I'm a little worried for it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just does not seem like there's a whole lot of reason for it, right?
No, I mean, it was interesting that when you were bringing up the Cuphead show, that someone had mentioned that a bit in the Wikipedia that critics had belittled it for not keeping the game's elements. And I was like, because it's not a game.
Yeah.
So now we're going to watch an Uncharted movie. But what you liked about Uncharted was that, if not, go see Indiana Jones. They're just trying to reskin an Indiana Jones.
That's the thing. And like, I don't know if it's like, if we need to make that tangent right now into like, why do some video game movies work or others? Like, you can never quite recreate the experience of the game in the movie, right? There are different mediums. But if it's a world that's interesting to live in, or characters that are interesting to follow, then like, I see how a Last of Us show could work, because it's a style of world. I don't really see how Uncharted is anything but Indiana Jones Jr.
Really quick, did you know The Last of Us is being directed by the guy who did Beanpole? He did a couple episodes of Beanpole?
Really? That's pretty cool.
Or did a couple episodes. The guy who did the foreign film.
I think I remember them announcing that, but I didn't remember it off the top of my head. And then of course it's Craig Mazin who's
and it's Craig Mazin who's producing it. So so what you're bringing up there is someone who's actually crafting and taking the time to nourish that product right there, and actually getting a good director who, damn, after watching Beanpole, knows how to bring emotion.
Right.
Who directed Uncharted?
Ruben Fleischer.
We like Ruben?
I don't know, man. He's not the worst. He's not the best. He's not the worst.
Well, we'll see when it comes out.
Yeah. And then the one that everybody is waiting on bated breath for.
Ah, damn. I kind of like Ruben. I don't want people on him. Yeah, wait, Venom 2 was missing Ruben, bro. He did Zombieland, and he did Venom. I like his... I don't care for his action, though. That's my problem. And in Uncharted, I see the action. But... got a little hope for the banter between Sully and Nathan, though. I do like his the way he handles tone.
All right. I think the thing that Ruben is most exciting on February 18th is Genius.
Yeah, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But yeah, Genius, and it's out today too, in theaters.
Yeah, out in theaters for those of you who can't wait or live in a major city.
That was sold out in Chicago. I can tell you that much.
I bet. Yeah. But yeah, Genius, very exciting. I know a lot of people are hyped on this documentary, and Kanye is doing his best to get people interested in him and the album in ways that I'm not so happy about. But look, it's Kanye, man. He's gonna be Kanye, I guess.
Gotta be careful, brother. There's skeets in every corner.
Have you had a chance to rewatch this one since Netflix dropped it onto our accounts?
Hell yeah. I had my whole family over. Saw the whole thing. Loved it.
Awesome.
I think there's something for everyone. Obviously,
unfortunately, we still
whole
don't have part 2 or 3.
No one's got 2 or 3. And I was seeing that they were doing screenings. They had their opening night in Los Angeles. Yep. They had a bunch of people there. He spoke. You're the one who had said it to me. Such a tiny little room they had there. So
not a very
honestly,
official
for some of y'all will
premiere.
have bigger screens at home. One is fantastic. Still hits every beat. Even my mom was loving it. She loved all the parts with Donda and all those conversations that she had with his son, and just that idea of like nourishing him and her practically being his checkpoints every time he was out and about. And there's just so many elements of part 1 that I love. It's going to be very interesting to see how they flesh it out to 2 or 3. But thank God he mentioned God. Right, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see how many times he mentioned God along the way, right?
Along with all the other stuff that he did, right?
Yeah.
He's like, good thing I mentioned God in the doc. Yeah. Good to see. What about the Hustlers magazine you picked up like right after? Oh, he's so funny sometimes.
Yeah. Consistently a character for sure. All right, so that is what is new to see. Obviously, your picks are probably Genius, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Anything else from that selection that you're going to make sure you see? I know I'm going to be watching Space Force Season 2. I'm going out to see Dog, and I'm going out to see Uncharted.
I'm going out to see Dog, bro. You know, I'm trying to get all of these, but my minor picks, I would say if you have the money and it's a really good rental little fee, watch King Knight. I think if you like the trailer to that, it'd be something quirky that's up your alley. And I would even put that above Strawberry Mansion, that as interesting as it gets with its idea, like we said, is a little bit slower. It gets a little bit weirder. But nonetheless, when that one's on streaming, I'd be curious to see if it can build up its own audience. But definitely. Texas Chainsaw Gang, bro. Let's go.
Right. I'll give it a shot, and we'll report back in a week.
Watch the first one, man. It's so scary. First one's on Shudder and Showtime, so.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so let's wrap this up with a kind of quick topic of the week, because obviously we're fresh off of the Super Bowl and the commercial celebration of the year. This is probably, I think it is the biggest commercial day of the year. No, what else would be? So always exciting premieres starring our favorite celebrities, previews of the new hit movies that we're definitely going to be going to see in a theater. A lot of places that we can start this out with. Should we talk about the ads? Should we talk about the shows? Should we talk about Lord of the Rings?
Nah, let's get rid of a lot of people in the chat.
And Zach Braff, just because I'm such a fan of Scrubs.
Oh, so the Scrubs one? Yeah.
They're together is cool. I also like the what was it, the electronic vehicle one with Austin Powers, just because it's like, you know, I mean, here's the thing. I
had that pretty high on my list. I was surprised how much I laughed at that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the spirit of the movie. It didn't feel like too much of like a, you know, besmirching the movie's legacy or whatever. But you know, I think overall, my big experience with the Super Bowl this year was just realizing how old I am now, because like all of these references are now our references, right? There's no more references to like, oh, that's Mike Ditka from the 80s, or oh, that's David Hasselhoff from Knight Rider. All these they're referencing Cable Guy, they're referencing Austin Powers, they're referencing 90s. Like all these things from my youth. And even the halftime show, right? Like every time it's the halftime show, it's like, oh, the Rolling Stones, those are for old people. And now it's everybody whose songs I know, and I'm the one saying all the lyrics at halftime. I don't know, man. I'm confronting my dwindling time on this earth, even if I don't think it's gonna be that short. It's coming up at some point, man. I'm gonna go gray, and I'm gonna be complaining about these young guys.
Zach, it was just a crypto ad, Zach. I promise you. The E-Trade baby's back. It's not that bad.
I don't know, man. I definitely had a bit of an existential crisis with this Super Bowl, but
bro. I saw it as a positive. I am one who has always complained about the 80s stuff and said, hey, Stranger Things, not an excuse for it to not to be a good show if it's just homaging. And they said, well, just wait till it's the 90s. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here. Guess what? I don't care how close to home it is. It's bad.
Yeah.
A lot of these commercials were not as good as previous years. I could tell you that off the bat. Not a bad year. A lot of people think it's a terrible year. No, you just have too much fluff now. And you had so many celebrities. Every ad that I'm looking at here, I would put Intuit commercial. Jason Sudeikis, T-Mobile, Scrubs guys, the one with Dolly, the Wood McGregor, ScarJo and her husband, Idris Elba. Like every single person had to have something. And so it's not the ad that makes it funny. It's the celebrity that's trying to bring something with it. And those are usually my least favorite. For example, the crypto one with Larry David.
Yeah.
So sad to see, man. So sad to see.
Pretty
bad. But there were also some good ones. Some of my favorite ones out of it. I did like the Dr. Evil car one. There were 2 screening ones. Mary J. Blige did one for a screening, which I also think, if you're going to do the celebrity thing, do it for a good thing. Beast mode, he's got to go get checked at Midwest Clinic, which I know is a lie, Marshawn, but sure. But some of the best ones would have been the Squarespace ad. That one was effective in using Zendaya, going through her day selling seashells, but having Andre 3000 narrate is something that I'm sure no one would pass up on.
I mean, he's gonna have the ability to get you through those tongue twisters. He knows his way around a tricky line.
Oh, I thought ones, you'll have one where it's like these blind Olympians performed against all odds. Toyota. They also had the Jones one where it was, I think, Leslie Jones, Tom Jones, and Tommy Lee Jones and Rashida Jones. Yeah. I don't know if you caught that one.
Right.
And then Jonas appears. But my top 3.
I caught that one, but I was not listening that closely to the commercials, so I just thought it was a bunch of celebrities. I didn't realize it was like this Jones thing until later.
Yeah, so it was Jones, and then Jonas comes in and they kick them out. But my top 3 would have been the Google Pixel ad. Do you remember the Google Pixel ad?
Yeah.
That said every other phone was racist?
I mean, this was one that was, it felt like it was an Apple commercial until it was a Google commercials. I don't know what it is about these smartphone things that are so like recognizable instantly. It did that thing that a lot of these smartphone commercials do where it's like, it's a little bit inspiring. It's a little bit about something important, but it's mostly an ad to sell you their camera.
It's an ad. If you click the link that I had there for the Google Pixel one, as much as I like the commercial, I was like, dang, look at them. They're going out. They're trying to talk about something. They're not talking about a damn thing, Zach. You ever seen the before and after pictures that are just like complete lies? Look at the before pictures on this Google commercial. The lighting sources are from elsewhere. There's a dude, when you pull it up, who's not even showing his picture on his phone. It's like a picture from 2000 that was printed out. Someone's like, oh, you can't see me. And it's like an indoor picture. And then what do they do for the Google Pixel ones? They're outside. Right. There's studio lighting.
The lighting is nice.
And that to me was the most embarrassing part of it. Like, don't try to be all out on it. I like the commercial a lot, but rewatching it, I was like, dude, all your original ones, like you guys were in a club, you guys were in a dark setting, and then the next one you're outside in the Florida sun. So a little goofy there, but my top 2, Legalized Skechers with Willie Nelson.
Solid.
Yeah, look, solid. One of the funniest commercials that they had. Yeah. Very simple, very easy. And then my number 1's got to be the McDonald's. Can I get a?
Yep. I mean,
how have they been sitting on this one? And I think that was.
I'm surprised Kanye didn't just tweet it out.
He did though. People knew he was going to be in it because he spoiled it. Yeah, of course. They know everything. But those would have just been the regular ads. I don't know if anything else stood out to you. That they were all mostly okay. Nothing too big. Cool to see Lindsay Lohan back.
I mean, it's cool to see Lindsay Lohan working.
That Tiger King show looks like booty.
Yeah,
it looks like absolute garbage.
Who wants it anymore? Who even cares about it anymore?
It's so late, dude. But anyways, I don't know if you have any other ones there, or we could jump to the stuff that really matters.
Let's jump to the stuff that people care about. Let us talk about the trailers, and let's start with the biggest one of them all. It's the Jeff Bezos Splurge Fest. Lord of the Rings. I feel like we are agreed in not being huge fans of Mordor or the Shire or any of those happenings down in Middle Earth.
You mean that in a bad thing? Like you don't hate it. You're just not like the fanatic.
Yeah, like I'm not somebody who's going to be, standing in line for this movie or whatever. I mean, I think there's a lot of great filmmaking in that original Peter Jackson trilogy, a lot less great filmmaking in the following Peter Jackson trilogy.
Yeah.
But, they're epic movies that are ultimately about intellectual property that I have no attachment to, right? So I have no stakes in this show being good. I don't know about you.
There's a big discussion to be had with this, which is why I want to bring up what someone said in the chat, which has absolutely nothing to do with this. Edgar Wright directed the Squarespace.
Wait, you didn't know
commercial,
that?
the seashell?
Yeah.
No. They just told me in the chat.
Yeah, of course. It was Edgar Wright. That's why it's got that visual flair.
Okay, back to Lord of the Rings. Can two things be the same thing at once?
What
Can two things be the same thing at once?
I mean,
can a show come out and have all this money and all these different changes that they want to make for it, and people not like it, but it still not be indicative of it being a good show? Really quick, I know one of the big things that people are having a problem with is casting.
Right, yeah.
Personally, I've seen the originals. Y'all need to go rewatch the originals. There's plenty of these characters already there.
Yeah.
What it comes down to, though, is I don't think it looks good.
Yeah.
And they are dropping everything on this. The Wheel of Time was one thing. All these other shows that they've been doing that they've been spending so much money on is one thing. All of that collectively is probably a fraction of this Lord of the Rings budget. Mm-hmm. All of that collectively is nothing but just a bit of what Lord of the Rings means to most viewers and people who are subscribed to them. If they drop this isn't just bad for the company. This isn't just bad for Lord. Like, it's going to be one of the worst releases if it's not good. It's already messy just dealing with the trailers.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that it's just not going to be good, because then you don't have a discussion about something being good or bad. Yeah, the discussion has now become something else completely. We're arguing about a dead man now. Tolkien's legacy, whatever. I was like, what? What are we discussing here, bro? This is, one, nothing but money. This is just commercials that are being put out there. No one cares about being super progressive. No one cares about even being super creative. So it's like I see both sides losing at the end of it. Do I want to be wrong? Because we haven't really. I don't even. How long was the trailer that they released?
Like a minute.
You know, we're about to talk about the Doctor Strange trailer, and I don't even want to talk about it because I know they're lying in it. You know?
Yeah.
We know they're lying.
That's I don't know, man. Like, with this Lord of the Rings show, I'm open to the idea that maybe it's good and that, like, we're only seeing small glimpses of what will be
it can't be good. It has to be great.
That's the thing. Like, it does have to be like this amazing epic show that gets Game of Thrones level type of hype. Gets Mandalorian type of hype.
But Mandalorian had 3 new episodes that came out. They would need to bring that all back, because the last thing they had in theaters was The Hobbit.
Right. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily an issue. Like, I think the Lord of the Rings fandom is there, and they're ready for a show if it's going to be good enough. But, you know, I think you got to convince people it's good enough. And there is just something about the look of the show. A little bit artificial, a little bit plastic, a little bit cosplay that is preventing me from, like, feeling like this is the epic that it wants to be. Now, I'm not writing this off yet. It's not nearly enough material to write it off, but it just, something about it doesn't quite look right.
Yeah.
And this shot that we have up on the live stream here, I think is one of them, in that it shows this character kind of holding on for what looks like dear life to an object, but also not really straining, right? Like, there's just something very artificial about the whole thing.
Which is crazy when you think that your boy, Peter Jackson, filmed them all back to back in 2000, and how much that holds up to it. So, look, it's not going to be a matter of people tuning in. People are going to tune in. It's Lord of the Rings. That's the one thing they have going for them. But that's when you have completely different expectations then. When you are already promised an audience, then you have to deal with different things. It is no longer about hooking people.
Yeah.
It is about delivering something that's going to make the most people happy, because it's a matter of that. Not everyone is going to be pleased. But what did they work behind the scenes to target what side of the fan base, I guess? And that's what's going to be interesting. Because we've seen it, Star Wars, right? That's been the whole fight. Whenever you have something that's too massive, you realize that the people in charge in creating it end up dividing the demographics of their viewers and decide who's going to be the easiest to please or whatnot. And I don't know how vast the Lord of the Rings people are. You know, like in Star Wars, you have the people who like the world, you have the people who like the Skywalkers. I don't know who people are cheering for the most in Lord of the Rings, what people are looking to see.
Right, yeah. Who are the characters that need to be there, or the worlds that need to be visited? I'm still curious about this one because, like you said, it is such a big bet from Amazon. And, like, I do, you know...
It's the only Prime commercial, too, right?
Yeah, the only Prime commercial that they had.
They had an Alexa commercial, but the only Prime commercial, I think, was just for Lord of the Rings. So, like, forget all the other stuff we have.
I kind of feel like they've bet so heavily on this show that if it is some
Too
kind
heavily.
of gigantic failure, that like
That's
who
funny.
knows what that means for the future of Prime Video. Like that is actually
The
a
future
thing.
of Bezos, bro. I think he's done. I think it's over for him.
For the world's richest man.
He messed up the show so bad.
We're
Ricky
taking
says in
that
the
money
chat
away.
that Ricky says that they need a Dune TV show. Well, let me tell you something, Ricky. Supposedly, HBO Max is working on a show with Denny, and it's supposed to be a spin-off on the Gesserit sisters and the whole like sorority that they have there. So there is going to be a Dune show.
Interesting.
Do you have more faith in HBO Max being able to produce an epic as opposed to Prime? I also feel like when we go into Prime and I don't know, you're like on the app. Do you feel epicness? When I'm on HBO, like I automatically think contrast. 7.1 Dolby. There's just something about being on a certain app that I feel like gives you a different experience with the way that they output. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't know if Prime has that, but
yeah. We will see. Another movie that had a big ad in the Super Bowl was the latest from Michael Bay, Ambulance. I know you're hyped on this one.
Yeah. Nothing too different, but added a good amount of hype to it.
Yep. There's also the Jurassic World Dominion trailer. I think we got this one well before it played during the Super Bowl. We got it before,
and it felt cut a little. It felt like it was cut a little bit differently, but for the most part, I thought it was still pretty point on point with what the original one had. The big reveals, obviously, being that you now have more original people returning. I'm very excited for that. It seems like a lot, man. I don't know. Story-wise, now that we're in the third one and the finale, because one of the things that they don't hint at is still that idea of what the second one. I don't know if you remember the second one, the second Jurassic World. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just the dinosaurs coming onto the mainland, which obviously is the big deal, and that's the big selling point here. It was also cloning. Do you remember? Like that's like the big like undercurrent that the second one ends on with the little girl who gets a spotlight in the trailer. So we'll see how they deal with that.
Yeah, I mean this iteration of Jurassic has been such a mess that I just have no hopes for this, even if they are bringing back actors I like. I mean, honestly, bringing back the actors I like makes me less hopeful for it because it seems like they're just trying to do some cheap ploy to bring people in and not actually fix their movies.
Fair.
I don't know. The first thing that I think had a big trailer during the Super Bowl, the first at least entertainment property, I want to say was Moon Knight. What do you think of this latest glimpse at Moon Knight?
It was some new shots than what we got from the first game, which was I can't remember what playoff game, or it would have been like a wild card game that they were going to show the Moon Knight teaser in between halftime. So I was on my timeline going, none of y'all watch football. What are y'all doing watching football? They had everyone tuned in just to see the Moon Knight trailer.
Right.
I kind of like that. Mm-hmm. That is very smart marketing. So, of course, they had one for the Super Bowl as well. And I'm very excited for it, dude. I think it looks fantastic. Oscar Isaac looks great. Obviously, it's the boys coming in from the Endless to do their thing. And I feel with this being their biggest budget and the thing that's going to get the most attention, I really hope that this catapults them to a whole other level. I'm probably the most anticipated for a Disney Plus Marvel series with Moon Knight than anything else, just because of the talent who's behind it.
Yeah, a lot of
in front of the camera and behind.
And also the fact that it is a character that I have less familiarity with makes me
hopeful
that like maybe they can take some risks, but we've said stuff like that before, so I'm not gonna sell myself too much too early.
Yeah. The Peacock had obviously a lot because it was on NBC. People were streaming it off Peacock. They had like a really big one for the World Cup, which I thought was smart because I remember when you and I first discussed Peacock, you didn't care about the properties. You were using it as a soccer
Premier League.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. They obviously did have the regular Peacock commercial, even having a legacy commercial for all like the classics that they had on there, which was really cool. Disney Plus's Aquafina commercial had to be the dumbest commercial they could have put out there, bro. Should have just left it with the Moon Knight
I missed this one. Maybe I was like getting some food or something. Can you tell me what happened?
Yeah. It's just like Aquafina coming out to like discuss the stuff that's coming for Disney Plus, because like Netflix is pretty good with it. They just show you, they're like, hey, look at this, boom 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 boom, look at all those titles, a movie a week. Did you see those actors in it? Yeah, you did. You already have Netflix. Tune in after the show. Yeah,
good thing that Disney Aquafina wasn't trending for negative things recently.
As long as you know, that's all the only reason I wanted to bring it up. Only reason I wanted to bring it up. Tweet at her. I'm sure she'll be open to it.
Yeah, exactly. She's on Twitter a lot now, apparently.
My top two. One would be a trailer. The other one, technically I have it down here, but it's not. But I really thought I was watching the intro to The Sopranos when I saw this Silverado ad.
Man, I got emotional with that one.
I got emotional with it too, dude. There was no business that we had. And I think what it was for Alita was when she saw Meadow come out of the car, she's like, that's Meadow. And then they hug.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a really good recreation for the end.
They did a really good job of recreating it. Like, they got the exact right spots. And like, just speaking as someone who lives in Jersey and like drives by these locations, like it's so cool to see, because it's how it looked and it's how it looks now.
No,
it's
a perfect way.
Things that make me think about the passage of time make me emotional. So that made me emotional.
But it's also a good ad because what you're saying is, hey, look at this property that we're not even going to bring the biggest stars. It's going to be the kids. Look at all these iconic places. And hey, some of y'all actually live here, don't you? You actually drive here. Unlike all the Chevrolet commercials. You know when you buy your Chevy and you're out in the middle of Yellowstone?
Right.
This is an actual place where they're telling you, buy this car and you can actually drive it in places that are near you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I thought it was a really good ad.
For
sure.
The best one. We still have 2 movies. I don't know if there's something else you wanted to bring up.
Can you name the movie that may not be my number 1?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about Doctor Strange yet, did we?
No, we didn't. I didn't even write it down, man. Do you want to end with Doctor Strange? Or do you want to...
No, let's end with the one that we're more excited about. Let's talk a little bit about... I'm trying to get the picture of Doctor Strange into Ecamm. Ecamm's fighting me. Whatever.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and MCUs and multiverses and everything else. I am excited for it. I'm looking forward to this idea of having Sam Raimi back.
Mm-hmm.
But we lost Sam Raimi because Sony was pushing him to do too much stuff. So now I'm supposed to be comfortable with Sam Raimi coming into the 26th film in the MCU with all this baggage and feel like he's going to have the freedom that he so desperately wanted in the last Sony.
And that's my Moon Knight point, Ren. Like there's exciting things in these trailers or in the talent announcements they make, but how much faith do you have in them to actually allow these creatives to make those decisions, right? Like I just sort of...
Yeah, so you were saying with Tom Holland complaining about franchises to go to another franchise.
Right. Like, yeah, there's just a certain way that things work in the MCU. And yeah, there's some cool shots in this trailer, I'm not going to lie. But, you know, ultimately they're like, oh, but check out all these cameos. We're going to give you a lot of cameos. That looks like Black Panther over there.
Bro, I heard Patrick Stewart. I'm a little excited. People saying that it's not going to be Patrick Stewart from the X-Men, but it's going to be Patrick Stewart from the cartoons. Look, I find all that stuff fascinating. I've been looking... Zach's so confused. It's so random.
Why? What's the difference?
There's a difference, but it's just the concept of even thinking that, you know? It's like, you know, the Proud Family that's coming back. That's the Proud Family, but it's a sequel to season 1, Zach. It's not a sequel to 2, 3. It's like so random.
Why?
I don't know. They have not confirmed that he's Magneto, or sorry, Xavier, but we did have his voice back. We obviously have some new characters, but Zach, probably one of the things that irks me the most about this movie, there's one thing in particular. I'm excited for so many things, the tone, Sam Raimi coming back, and how this is going to expand the world. But I'm so done with Wanda, and I feel like I'm the only one in this boat arguing about this. We came into WandaVision saying, this ain't right. Mm-hmm. And people did not argue that you needed to understand. People argued that she did nothing wrong. And now this trailer is telling you she did do something wrong. But why could Doctor Strange do it and not her? And I'm like, y'all weren't even arguing that to begin with. We were saying that was an issue. Disney told them, don't even worry about it. It's not. Obviously it became an issue. Now they have to address it. And I think that's the most tiring thing, this moving of the goalposts. And now all of a sudden it's an issue that they do have to face. Now it's a problem that you kind of had an entire town locked down. And people said, well, what Doctor Strange was worse. Look, you saw Spider-Man 2. I think everyone's seen it. Biggest movie in the world. It's going to win the Twitter vote for the Oscars as the best movie that people can vote in for, which is real. You can search that up. At least Doctor Strange wasn't doing it on purpose. And even then, screw Doctor Strange 2. It is the weirdest thing to see Marvel fans like defend their things if they're not fictional characters. And many times a lot of them are written badly. I want them to get their stuff together because Sam Raimi is a very cohesive director. And I really don't want them to belittle his style because he's got to set up all these different things in a movie that's all about multiverses. I will ask you one thing. Are you excited for this idea of Tom Cruise showing up as a variant of Iron Man?
No, like, no, I don't know, man. Like, I get the idea that we're now doing these multiverse things, and it's all these ways to bring in new actors, but it's like, cool, like, it's another actor who's going to show up for a little bit to, I don't know, man. Like, that stuff just doesn't excite me. Like, have a good reason to bring him in first, right? Like, why don't you make Doctor Strange interesting so I don't have to worry about Iron Man? I don't care. I don't care about all, like, I don't go to the movies to see 2 minutes of a person I recognize. I go for a good story.
So someone had tweeted out that the fact that we're always bringing out the characters who are dead, and we can't even process grieving characters, we're screwed as actual people when it comes to loss.
Yeah. No one's going to be ready to actually die. Like, especially with the Luke Skywalker
Bro, he died in Logan.
Elion is mentioning in the live stream, like, are you watching Book of Boba Fett? We're not, but I'm glad I'm not, because I don't want to be stuck with like a character who looks like he did before I was even born. Like, things have to progress, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the MCU is now, and I just feel like it's going to put it in a point where when you're able to do all these crazy things, do you just lose what's it called? Are you just what's the word? You lose all sense of like emotion to it. You're just numb to it. They have gone so out of the way to create these multiverses that you just have no expectations. If no one can die, if there's no stakes at all, you're just gonna always be questioning it. Like, why weren't the Eternals there? Well, actually, forget the Eternals. What happened to this concept of just being able to bring anyone back to life? I don't know.
Yeah, it's less about the like bringing people to life. It's the like, why should I care when they die, right?
It is cool to have that moment when they come back, but you are forgetting that it then belittles that scene he had in Logan as his goodbye. We know Iron Man's going to come back. So then what was the point of the entire goodbye there?
Exactly. And the thing is, prior to Infinity War, the MCU in general felt like it had no stakes. That was my problem with it, is that these movies often feel like they just reset at the end of it. And they found some ways to make it feel like there's some actual stakes. But if you're just going to reset things, that it's not going to feel consequential. So I guess we will see. Maybe there'll be some pretty shots in Doctor Strange.
Let's go. Best movie of the year.
But let's talk about the trailer that everybody's most excited for, I think, of the ones that just dropped. We have some new footage from the next Jordan Peele horror epic. I don't know if you saw the email. They listed the genre as horror epic in the official press blast. Did this feel epic?
So mine was, obviously it's horror, right?
Yeah.
I keep thinking it's horror sci-fi. I didn't know what the premise was, so when I saw that it had to do with this ranch that is the oldest black-owned horse training facility for movies, then I was like, damn, they're going to get a little meta maybe. Then you kind of see that there's what seems to be aliens. There was like this little flubber-looking thing that was moving around, almost looks like a gremlin. They're selling stuff there as people come to the shows for the horses, and it looks like these aliens. Maybe it was supposed to be like a horror sci-fi, to not spoil that. They're calling it a horror epic. I feel like epic is the closest word genre-wise to sci-fi or fantasy. So maybe that's their way of not spoiling it.
Not tipping the hand too soon. They are trying to play
Epic's
a little
not
bit
a genre.
coy
We cannot
here.
call something epic.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear epic, I think of
What's
like
the next genre?
Ben-Hur or something, you know? Not.
But even then, that's a historical epic,
right?
Because that's the idea of it. It's a historical biopic. But you're adding that epicness because of the grand scale of it. Doesn't seem bigger than us.
No, but they might be hiding a lot.
A lot of stuff we haven't seen yet. Because right now it just seems like we're in a ranch. But it looks so damn good. Yeah. I love Get Out. Every single time I see Get Out, I like it even more.
It has a legitimate case for being one of the best 10 films of the last 10 years.
I don't know how you feel about Us.
I still think it's good. I know you're more mixed.
I'm split on that. I'm very split.
I think
that's a movie that's got a horror premise and a social message. And the social message continues to, I don't know, I feel like it it runs into himself. And then the horror message, as great as it is seeing all these doppelgangers, never really makes any sense the more you think about the underground world.
Yeah.
But I like what he brought to us.
Less satisfying of a movie
like
than
be better than Get Out.
Less satisfying of a movie than Get Out, I think Us is, but like there's still just so much iconic imagery that sticks with you from that movie.
Idea of
and
doubles.
he is so good at creating these scenes and these visuals, and it seems like Nope is going to be full of them. Connor in the live stream pointing out that Hoyt van Hoytema is the cinematographer also for Nope, so maybe even getting a little bit of visual step up with this one.
And Daniel Kaluuya's back, right? Because I know Kiki is being pitched as the lead. That was even his tweet. It was like, ma'am, that's Kiki Palmer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Any other theories or stuff that you may have from the frames that we've gotten?
Well, so everybody seems to be under the belief that Nope is an acronym for Not of Planet Earth. I don't know if that's been officially reported anywhere, but I see a lot of people discussing it. So obviously that gives you some sort of connotation. But the thing that I found really interesting that I'm going to try and pull up here quickly was a tweet that talked about the clouds. Have you seen anything about this?
Yeah, because for the title, the O in Nope is a cloud that almost feels like it's carrying, kind of looks like a kite.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't test me on my clouds. I don't know if you're about to ask me if it's a cumulus cloud or whatnot. I don't know what
it looks more like a nimbus to me, actually.
Okay, yeah.
No, so somebody pointed out that, and I don't know if this is true, but the clouds look like they're moving at a different frame rate than the rest of
could just be the CGI, but okay.
footage. Some people are saying it might be the compression, but his theory is that these aliens will have something to do with our perception of motion. And if you see the trailer has these like people getting like sucked out and stuff like that. I mean,
that too. Plus, it's the whole idea of the movies. It begins with that old-timey footage being captured, right, from the original horse, the black man on the horse, and then they're filming inside of a green screen. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I feel like it's going to be commenting a lot about movies and the moving image. So then to also have a villain, a entity that deals with that could be interesting. I don't know if you remember from The Matrix. She started dealing with that. Lana was filming a lot of stuff with two cameras, one that had a frame rate that was like 3 times higher than what she was filming the actors for, and then was able to combine the footage. So you're seeing a frame that's at 24 frames per second, and then one object that's moving like 5 times faster. So the technology's been there. I'd be really curious to see what he does because the Matrix didn't do that for me. But I'm so excited for this cast, dude. I didn't even know Barbie Ferreira was in it. Kiki Palmer, Daniel Kaluuya, Steven Yeun.
Yeah, Steven Yeun, man. I mean, everybody's excited to see Steven Yeun in a cowboy hat.
Bro, he looks so sick. Yeah. So I'm really excited for it.
I'm very excited for it, too, and I'm glad that they're keeping some of the mystery locked up. I mean, we still got, 5 months until this
I was going to ask you. Get Out opened at Sundance. Us opened at South by. I think South by is a little too early for a movie that's going to be in July when South by is in March. But is there a festival in May?
You coming to Tribeca, Brad? You coming to New York?
Would you want him to do Tribeca? Well, think about it. What would be the next festival for Jordan Peele to open his movie on? Why would you want to do the same festival? What would be the next festival?
Is he going to go to Cannes or something like that? It might be
I want to see him in Cannes, bro. I want to see the man at Cannes with Nope. It could be opening.
Yeah, I mean, look, they always have a blockbuster or two. You know, that's where Mad Max premiered also, so...
Where the Emoji Movie premiered as
yeah, the Emoji Movie was played at Cannes.
So you have several, but I'm hoping that he opens it there. I think that'd be really cool.
That's a good idea. I like that too.
End of May.
Yeah, so a lot of exciting stuff that we have watched, that we will watch this week, that we will watch months into the future. There's always exciting stuff on the What to Watch. But I think that's about it in terms of what we're going to cover on this week's edition of the podcast. Thanks to those of you who were able to join us live. As we mentioned last week, we're going to try and lock down this Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern time to give you a weekly live stream where we run through what we're watching, what's coming up this week, and whatever topics that we want to hit. We might be back a little bit later in the week to run through some news. We're still working on that. So make sure you stay tuned to the Intercut socials and Intercut on YouTube. We'll post anything coming up. And we also are back later this week with another episode featuring Elliot from Movie Files, where we break down the best streaming services out there. So
we went through all of them.
Yeah, make sure you are ready for that episode. Brush up on your streaming services. Download
Get a cable
Hoopla.
package that gets you all of them. Yeah.
Get that AMC Plus bundle going. But yeah, so that's about it. You can find more from me on social media at Zshevich. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me over at Elmi Explain on Twitter, talking about the newest movies on Letterboxd as I count down and rank all of my Texas Chainsaw Massacre watch lists this upcoming week. But of course, every week here discussing the latest movie and movie news on the Intercut Podcast.
You can catch new episodes of the Intercut Podcast every Monday. Catch other episodes on Thursdays. We're coming a couple times per week recently. You know, we're
too much, bro. We need to leave.
Too much. It was 7 hours of content last week, and I think by the end of the week, by the Sundance Recap Part 2, y'all were a little bit busy too. So maybe we won't do 7 hours every week, but we'll give you a couple editions of Intercut and try and break it down on Mondays, on Thursdays, whenever we end up doing it. You can find it on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can watch our bright smiling faces as we run through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes. I already said that part. Find new episodes of every Monday. Please leave us a comment, like the video. Consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. We did get a new 5-star review from What's the Matter. I'm gonna read that on our next Intercut recording, so it can get like a nice proper treatment. What else is there? Shouts to people in Nigeria, in Poland, in all sorts of places we're popping up
just
on
because.
the TV and film podcast. Also just because. Yeah, it's always fun to shout out the people of Belgium. I think Andy, one of our patrons, was like, you guys never shout out Utah. We don't get stats for U.S. states like that. And, I need to talk to Chartable about adding it by state.
We shout out Utah all the time.
We were in Utah.
The Sundance Film Fest.
Yeah.
But shout out Utah.
Yeah, shout out Utah, shout out all the states. Like our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter pages, support our Patreon. All of them are available at Intercut Pod. You can support the show for as little as $1 a month and get access to all sorts of patron benefits, including our weekly patron hangouts, which we're going to do next week, right? Because
you can tell me it was Valentine's, but next week we're going to do a whole 2-hour long thing. First hour just talking, and then the second hour, I don't know if I want to make it a 2021 tournament.
Ooh.
But depending on how many people we have on the hangout, we'll see who's the best of their cinema knowledge for all the stuff that was in 2021. Because I think for the last 2 years, usually, you do a movie trivia. It's like, it ain't come out of my place. It ain't come out yet. I think we've had a good thing with streaming that we've had a good chunk of movies that came out and also have a bunch of knowledge for upcoming movies that would make for a fun little movie trivia night to see which one of the Patreons comes out on top. All
right. So, yeah, if you want to come hang out with us and do a little bit of 2021 movie trivia, make sure you join the Patreon.
It'd be like Oscar trivia, yeah.
$1 a month, and we'll do a 2-hour hangout next week. Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble with Alina, so we're gonna push the Patreon hangout that I planned.
She gave me a look too, right before we started. She's like, you better intercut that out. That's what she said.
All right, so we will be back. Also, hey, check out the Discord where maybe I'll go hang out there if you want to talk. If Caitlin will let me, I'll chat with some inner cuties in the Discord. You can check out the link in the description to go there. You'll get updates throughout the week if you follow us on social media, from me, from Art, from any of the guests that we feature. I'm always retweeting, reblogging, whatever, sharing on Instagram. Caitlin doing an awesome job with our Instagram recently too. All sorts of questions.
Caitlin's been killing it.
Yeah.
All throughout Sundance, Caitlin was there making sure that she was chopping up the after credits,
making sure the ship is running right. So a lot of good stuff.
Awesome coming. Producer, right there. Shout out Caitlin.
Yeah. So
if you leave a 5-star review and you don't mention Caitlin, don't
exactly.
Even 5-star.
Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, I get it. I have a very hittable face.